Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Gaurav Sharma and with me is Anita Anand bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring to you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement comes into force. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says it will unlock enormous potential of trade and economic ties between the two countries. India and Cyprus sign agreements in various areas including defence and military cooperation between the two countries. Indian Air Force successfully test fires extended range version of BrahMos air-launched missile. Benjamin Netanyahu sworn in as Israel's Prime Minister for the sixth time. Russia rejects Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky's peace formula as a basis for negotiations. India makes RT-PCR test mandatory for international passengers from 6 countries including China. US also imposes mandatory COVID testing for visitors from China. In cricket, Australia thrashed South Africa by an innings and 182 runs in the second test at Melbourne. And the Indian women's squad announced for the upcoming Tri-Series and ICC T20 World Cup in South Africa. The India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, ECTA, has come into force from Thursday. The two nations signed the agreement on the 2nd of April this year. ECTA is the first trade agreement of India with a developed country after more than a decade. Our correspondent reports that the agreement encompasses cooperation across the entire gamut of bilateral economic and commercial relations between the two friendly countries. Under this trade agreement, India exports will benefit from preferential zero-duty market access in Australia for 100% of its tariff lines. It will also benefit India's labour-intensive sectors. As a result of this agreement, 10 lakh jobs are estimated to be created in the country. Besides, over 1 lakh Indian students will also benefit from post-study work visa. The total bilateral trade is expected to cross $45 to $50 billion in 5 years from the existing $31 billion. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has expressed confidence that the India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement will unlock the enormous potential of trade and economic ties between the two countries. In a tweet, he said that this will boost businesses on both sides. Mr. Modi said that it is a watershed moment for the India-Australia Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. In a tweet, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said that the India-Australia Trade Agreement will deliver new opportunities to Australian businesses. He said that he will visit India in March with a business delegation at the invitation of Prime Minister Modi. More from a Mumbai correspondent.
Addressing the press conference in Mumbai, Union Minister for Industry and Commerce Piyush Goyal said it's a win-win situation where India will get cheaper raw materials and will get 100% access of duty-free market in Australia in the next few years.
While India will get nearly 100% access to the Australian market duty-free, of which nearly 98% plus of our value of trade today will get zero duty from today. Which is probably 10, 12, 15 items where we will get the zero duty over the next 5 years.
He said the Indian IT sector will start saving $1 billion.
From 1st of April, double taxation for our IT sector will be over and we'll save millions and millions of dollars right now. And with the increased potential for our IT sector, my guess is we'll start saving over $1 billion every year.
Nivedita, AIR News, Mumbai.
India and Cyprus have signed a number of agreements in various areas including on defence and military cooperation between the two countries. The agreements were signed following talks between External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and Foreign Minister of Cyprus in Nicosia on Thursday. In the joint press statement following the talks and exchange of agreements, Dr. Jaishankar said this meeting demonstrates the commitment towards deepening bilateral cooperation between India and Cyprus.
We have also signed a number of important agreements. One is the MOU on defense and military cooperation between our two countries. The second is the letter of intent on migration and mobility partnership. which we believe will provide a common framework of arrangement and cooperation to facilitate the mobility of students, academics, business people and professionals. And it will also help in combating irregular migration. I welcome very much the signing of the Framework Agreement on International Solar Alliance by Cyprus, and I believe that our cooperation in the field of renewable energy will gain as a result.
Dr. Jaishankar is on an official visit to Cyprus and Austria till 3rd of next month. He said India-Cyprus partnership is rooted in shared values of democracy, diversity and pluralism. He added that the strategic aspects of the relationship have gained new meaning in recent years. The External Affairs Minister reiterated India's position on the Cyprus issue and expressed commitment for bicommunal, bizonal federation based on UN resolutions as a solution to the issue. He said they had productive discussions on bilateral relations, geopolitical and regional challenges. During his 3-day visit to Cyprus, Dr. Jaishankar will call on President of the House of Representatives, Anita Demetriou. In the second leg of his second visit to Austria, Dr. Jaishankar will meet the Austrian Federal Minister for European and International Affairs, Alexander Schallenberg. According to the External Affairs Ministry, this will be the first External Affairs Minister-level visit from India to Austria in the last 27 years. The minister will call on the Austrian Chancellor Karl Nehammer. He will also interact with the Indian diaspora based in Austria. Dr. Jaishankar will also meet with Director General of International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Mariano Grossi.
The Indian Air Force has successfully fired the extended-range version of BrahMos air-launched missile against a ship target from a Su-30 MKI aircraft on Thursday. The missile achieved the desired mission objectives in the Bay of Bengal region. Our correspondent reports that with this, the IAF has achieved a significant capability boost to carry out precision strikes from Su-30 MKI aircraft against land and sea targets over very long ranges. The extended range capability of the missile, coupled with the high performance of the Su-30 MKI aircraft, gives the IAF a strategic reach and allows it to dominate the future battlefields. The dedicated and synergetic efforts of the IAF, the Indian Navy, the DRDO, the BAPL and the HAL have been instrumental in achieving this feat.
Benjamin Netanyahu has been sworn in as Israel's Prime Minister for a 6th time. He has the support of 63 lawmakers in the 120-member Israeli parliament, Knesset. Mr. Netanyahu has repeatedly pledged to promote tolerance and pursue peace. He told Parliament that ending the Israeli-Arab conflict was his top priority, along with thwarting Iran's nuclear program and building up Israel's military capacity. Extending his heartiest congratulations to the Israeli Prime Minister for forming the government, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that he is looking forward to working together to strengthen their strategic partnership.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring to you a news commentary. Maoist leader Prachand takes over as the new Prime Minister of Nepal.
Nepal witnessed a long spell of political maneuvering after the country voted a hung parliament in the November 20 elections to the House of Representatives and all 7 provincial assemblies. The ruling Nepali Congress, NC, emerged as the single largest party with 89 of its members getting elected to the House, which has strength of 275. The NC was followed by the opposition Communist Party of Nepal, Unified Marxist-Leninist CPN-UML with 78 members. The 5-party ruling Nepali Congress Alliance, which went to the hustings jointly, fell short of 2 members of the magic figure of 138 to form the federal government. Hectic political activity continued for over a month to garner support of other parties by both ruling alliance led by Nepali Congress President and outgoing Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deuba and the opposition led by the former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, chief of CPN-UML. When Deuba was re-elected as President of the Nepali Congress Parliamentary Party on 21st December, hopes reignited for his forming the government again as leaders of all 5 partners of ruling alliance in a signed statement had resolved to keep the alliance intact in the larger interest of political stability in the country and to speed up development process. President Bidya Devi Bhandari called upon elected members to submit their claim to form new government under Article 76(2) of Nepal Constitution by 5 p.m. on December 25th, giving them a week's time if any one of them could muster majority in the House of Representatives with the support of 2 or more political parties. This triggered intense lobbying, and the events that followed took a dramatic turn as a prominent ruling alliance partner, Communist Party of Nepal, Maoist Centre Chief Pushpa Kamal Dahal, alias Prachanda, broke away from Nepali Congress and aligned with CPN-UML. He submitted his claim to form the new government with the support of 169 members in a house of 275, including 32 of his own party, 78 of CPN-UML, Rashtriya Independent Party's 20 members, and some other fringe parties and independents. The newly appointed Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal Prachanda took oath of office and secrecy for a third time on 26th December along with 3 Deputy Prime Ministers, one each from CPN-UML, his own party, CPN Maoist Centre, and the first-timer in Nepali politics prominent TV anchor Rabi Lamichhane, chief of Rashtriya Independent Party, who got prominent portfolio of Home Ministry. 4 other ministers, 3 from CPN-UML and 1 from Janmat Party, were also administered the oath of office and secrecy by President Bindya Devi Bhandari. Prachanda will have to prove his maturity in a trust vote in Parliament within 30 days as per constitutional provisions. The turn of events took a dramatic turn when Prachanda met Sher Bahadur Deoba and staked his claim to form the government for the first 2 years of the 5-year term of Parliament, reminding him of the agreement reached between them, which Deoba denied. He walked out of the ruling alliance, met Oli and leaders of other supporting parties later in the day, and joined hands with Oli, with whom he had parted company in 2021, leading to fall of Oli's government. The Maoist and the Communist coming together in Nepal is a big setback to the Nepali Congress and its leader, Sher Bahadur Deoba, who could face the ire of many of his party leaders who are already critical of what they call his weak leadership and not taking timely decisions. As CPN-UML is the large partner in the new dispensation, Oli, who is known to be having a pro-China tilt, is likely to prevail in state affairs. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a tweet said that the unique relationship between India and Nepal is based on deep cultural connect and warm people-to-people ties. He said he looks forward to working with Prachanda to further strengthen friendship between the two countries. With power sharing between CPN-UML, CPN Maoist Centre and some smaller parties, Nepali Congress may lose its chance of government formation in Nepal's provinces also, even though it is the largest party in some of the provinces.
Russia has rejected Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky's peace formula as a basis for negotiations. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Mr. Zelensky's idea of driving Russia out of eastern Ukraine and Crimea with Western help and getting Moscow to pay damages to Kyiv is an illusion. Mr. Zelensky is pushing a 10-point peace plan that envisages Russia respecting Ukraine's territorial integrity and pulling out all its troops, but Moscow dismissed it on Wednesday, reiterating Kyiv must accept Russia's annexation of the 4 regions, Luhansk, Donetsk in the east and Kherson and Zaporizhzhia in the south.
International passengers travelling from China, Hong Kong, Japan, South Korea, Singapore and Thailand to India will be mandatorily required to undergo RT-PCR test before their departure from these countries. The passengers have to upload the COVID-negative RT-PCR test report on the Air Suvidha portal from the 1st of January 2023. The Union Health Ministry has said that the test should have been conducted within 72 hours of undertaking the journey to India. This requirement is in addition to the random 2% tests of all international passengers in all incoming international flights on their arrival to India, irrespective of the port of departure.
This is All India Radio giving you the world news.
The US has imposed mandatory COVID testing for visitors from China after Beijing announced it would reopen borders next week. Italy, Japan, Taiwan and India have also announced mandatory tests, but Australia and the UK have said that there are no new rules for travellers from China. After 3 years of being closed to the world, China will allow people to travel more freely from the 8th of January. but the country's ongoing COVID surge has sparked wariness. China is reporting about 5,000 cases a day, but analysts say that such numbers are vastly undercounted and the daily caseload may be closer to 1 million. The US has said that a lack of adequate and transparent COVID data in China has contributed to the decision to require COVID tests from the 5th of January for travelers entering the country from China, Hong Kong and Macau. The US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has said that this was needed to help slow the spread of the virus.
1,000 more flights were cancelled across the United States on Wednesday, with no end in sight of travel misery as the country digs out from a deadly superstorm. Officials in Erie County in western New York, the hardest hit area by the massive winter storm, lifted their death count to 37, taking the national total to at least 59. Around-the-clock work to restore electricity continued in the county's main city of Buffalo, with the number of outages down to 128 residents, Mayor Byron Brown told media later in the day. Another kind of crisis was playing out at U.S. airports around the country as Southwest Airlines was forced to cancel 1,000 more flights to try to recover from a spiraling logistics breakdown. Stranded travelers search for their luggage at an airport in Chicago. The airline's problem stranded thousands of customers as well as pilots and flight attendants. The storm, which descended on the U.S. just before the busy Christmas holiday weekend, led to unusually cold weather in much of the country, including southern states like Texas and Florida. Temperatures were moderating nationwide Wednesday, including in Buffalo, even though the region remained in triad mode. The city on the shores of Lake Erie near the Canadian border has seen a majority of the storm-related fatalities.
United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken has called on the Taliban to reverse their decision of banning women employees of NGOs from the workplace. Taking to his official Twitter handle, Blinken stressed that millions of Afghans depend on humanitarian assistance for their survival. Blinken's statement comes after the Taliban on Saturday ordered all local and foreign NGOs to stop female employees from coming to work in the country. The decision comes a few days after the Taliban ordered the closure of universities to female students across the country. Earlier, the United Nations Security Council had said that the decision of the Taliban will have an immediate and significant impact on humanitarian operations in Afghanistan.
In Sri Lanka, the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, has coordinated with Kiev Supermarkets and Hatton National Bank, HNB, on a supply chain financing facility that supports micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, MSMEs, in the food sector to access capital. Our Colombo correspondent reports that the facility reduces the supply chain disruptions like those that emerged during the COVID-19 pandemic or recent economic crisis. The facility provides MSMEs with competitive fixed interest rate financing. The facility lent a total of $430,000 to 8 suppliers in its first weeks of operations. The partnership plans to support approximately 100 MSMEs to obtain $4 million worth of credit over 6 months. HNB's Deputy General Manager for SME and Retail Banking, Sanjay Vijayamane, said that this partnership will enable MSMEs to meet their working capital needs such as purchasing raw materials, paying salaries and covering other short-term expenses so businesses continue running smoothly. He exuded confidence that this will further empower MSMEs to achieve their business objectives. Mission Director of USAID in Sri Lanka and Maldives, Gabriel Grau, said Sri Lankan enterprises face increasing pressures due to recent global supply chain disruptions, high energy costs, volatile inflation rates, and economic instability. This supply chain financing facility alleviates some of the pressures and enables MSMEs to optimize their working capital, he said.
The death toll from a gas tanker blast in Johannesburg on Christmas Eve has risen to 27. The explosion in the city's Boksburg suburb on Saturday tore the roof of the emergency department at the Tambo Memorial Hospital, destroyed 2 houses, several cars, and injured bystanders up to 500 meters from the scene. The Department of Health confirmed that the toll now stood at 27 from the Boksburg explosion. 10 of these are health workers from Tambo Memorial Hospital. The local media reported that the truck driver, who was earlier arrested on suspicion of culpable homicide, has been released due to lack of evidence. President Cyril Ramaphosa has promised support to people affected by the blast and has said that authorities were looking into the incident.
The 356th birth anniversary of Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj is being celebrated on 29th of December with religious fervour and gaiety. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid tribute to Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji and recalled his contribution towards serving humanity. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said his unparalleled courage will continue to motivate people for years to come. The main function of the birth anniversary will be celebrated at midnight at the Gurudwara Takht Sri Harminder Sahib at Patna Sahib.
The Sensex and the NSE Nifty on Thursday witnessed modest gains. Index of the top 30 companies at the Bombay Stock Exchange, Sensex, ended above the 61,100 level. The Nifty index of the top 50 companies at the National Stock Exchange closed near the 18,200 mark. A report from the Business Desk.
The Sensex rose 224 points to settle at 61,133 points. The Nifty also gained 69 points to end at 18,191. Among the global stock markets, Asian stock indices ended down as global recession fears weighed on markets and soaring COVID-19 cases in China countered earlier optimism about the country dropping its strict zero-COVID policy. South Korea's Kospi plunged 1.9%, Japan's Nikkei declined 0.9%, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng fell 0.8%. Singapore's Straits Times Index ended 0.5%, and China's Shanghai Composite Index slipped 0.4%. European shares were mixed in intraday trade. Oil prices fell more than 1% as surging COVID-19 cases in China dimmed hopes of a recovery in fuel demand for the world's largest crude oil importer. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading at $82.20 per barrel. Back home at the multi-commodity exchange, gold futures for February was trading at 54,800 rupees per 10 grams. Silver futures for March was trading at 69,500 rupees per kilogram when reports last came in. And at the forex markets, the rupee appreciated 6 paise to close at 82 rupees and 81 paise against the US dollar. Rajesh Lake for World News, All India Radio.
The Vatican has said former Pope Benedict XVI is lucid and alert but still in a serious but stable condition on Thursday. Updating on his health, Vatican Press Officer Director Matteo Bruni said the former Pope was able to rest well last night. Pope Francis warned on Wednesday that his 95-year-old predecessor was very ill and appealed to everyone to pray for him. A Vatican spokesman confirmed later Wednesday that Benedict's health had worsened in the last few hours and that Francis visited Benedict at Mater Ecclesiae Monastery in Vatican City. Pope Benedict became the first leader of the Catholic Church to stand down in 600 years in 2013, citing advanced age.
Australia thrashed South Africa by an innings and 182 runs in the second cricket test to win the series with an unassailable 2-0 lead and a game to spare. Resuming on 15 for 1, South Africa were bowled out for 204 before tea on the fourth day at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. The third and final test in Sydney starts on the 3rd of January. Australia, who won the first test inside 2 days, extended their lead over India at the top of the World Test Championship table. South Africa, who began the series at the second place, are now fourth. Earlier, Australia posted a mammoth 575 for 8 declared in their first innings, featuring 200 from David Warner and Alex Carey's 111 in reply to South Africa's 189. David Warner was deservedly named player of the match and given the Mulak Medal for his courageous 200.
The All India Women's Selection Committee has announced India's squad for the Tri-Series in South Africa starting in January and the upcoming ICC Women's T20 World Cup. The event is scheduled to begin on 10th of February. Team India is scheduled to meet Pakistan in their opening match on the 12th of February in Cape Town.
The second Under-19 2020 women's cricket match between India and South Africa has been abandoned due to rain in Pretoria. The match could not start due to the wet ground. In the 5-match series, the hosts lost the first match by 54 runs.
In the World Rapid Chess Championship, teenage Indian player B. Savita Sri registered 4th straight victories to jump into the joint lead of the women's section in Almaty, Kazakhstan on Wednesday. 15-year-old Savita, who was on 2.5 points, is the star of the day, posting 4 consecutive wins to join Zhongke Tan of China and Georgia's Alexandra Goryachkina at the top with 6.5 points. Savita began the day with a win over lower-rated Zarina Nurgalieva of Kazakhstan before pulling off victories over higher-rated Iranian Sarasdat and Antonietta Stefanova of Bulgaria and Bela Khotentchevili of Georgia. And now let's take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Guardian writes Turkish and Syrian defense and security officials meet for the first time in a decade. The Global Time writes latest US-Taiwan arms sale slammed, will face mainland countermeasures. The Wall Street Journal writes Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu returns to power in 6th term as Prime Minister. And the Straits Times writes Indonesia's efforts to improve health sector encounter resistance from Doctors Association.
And before we end the bulletin, a quick look at the headlines once again. India-Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement comes into force. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says it will unlock enormous potential of trade and economic ties between the two countries. India and Cyprus sign agreements in various areas including defense and military cooperation between the two countries. Indian Air Force successfully test-fires extended-range version of BrahMos air-launched missile. Benjamin Netanyahu sworn in as Israel's Prime Minister for the 6th time. Russia rejects Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky's peace formula as a basis for negotiations. India makes RT-PCR test mandatory for international passengers from 6 countries including China. US also imposes mandatory COVID testing for visitors from China. In cricket, Australia thrashed South Africa by an innings and 182 runs in the second test at Melbourne. And the Indian women's squad announced for the upcoming Tri-Series and ICC T20 World Cup in South Africa.
And now, before we end, let's listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Finland.
Vaishnav Janato Tene Kahiye Veer Parai Jani Re Para Tuke Upakar Kare Toye Manadna Nani Re Vaishnav Janato Tene Kahiye Veer Parai Jani Re Sakala Loka Masahuni Vande Nindana.
And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.